Okay, good afternoon, everyone. We have 13 of you registered this afternoon. We may have some other people joining us as we start this webinar. For those of you who I may have met before as part of the activities that Weston College have been running under the SEND, or the Centre for Excellence in SEND, which obviously our centre here at Weston is really focusing on a whole organising approach to inclusive practice. If I can introduce you to my colleague, Ros Osborne.
Hi, everybody.
And we just go through a few parts to introductions to this to start off with. We have muted the microphones. We found in previous webinars that it's been really, really difficult to have so many people logging on and asking questions all at the same time. So we're going to use the wave button that you'll hopefully see on your slides that you can then access if you want to ask a question. Then obviously you can do that, and we have Liam with us who will be looking at those questions and feeding that through to myself and Ros. So as I mentioned, the reason from some of the work that we've been doing with principals and CEOs and talking to people that are working as leaders within the SEND field, a lot of the information that's been coming back to us is about efficiencies and how we can reduce the need for human support within organisations so that we can be more efficient. Obviously, you're all aware of the cuts that have been happening within the further education sector and how difficult it is to employ really highly qualified specialist staff. So at Weston College, what we've done is we've used technology to enhance our specialist model of support, so that learners can access support right through from when they even start to think about accessing Weston College post-16 to progressing into HE within the organisation. So I'm going to pass over to Ros now, who's going to talk you through how we came up with this model and how we involve all aspects of the college in looking at our technology.
Right, it's hard because I can't see you from where I'm sat. So I'm just going to make my way through. At any time, please do ask any questions, or if you already know there's a question you particularly want answered today, then please start tapping away, because I'll try and blend in those answers with as I'm talking. So on the screen there, you'll see what the aim and the objectives of the communities of practice is about. And actually, believe it or not, the 3D tours hits every single one of those, okay, and the interactive element. So as we go through the presentation or webinar now, is to think about the ambition and motivation, about the continuing professional development of staff, the inclusive culture, but also the social inclusion. And there's actually layers and layers of more information there to support the effective support for learners. So before we show you around some of our tours, I, again, would like you to have a really open mind about this concept, whether you're good at technology. I'm not, but I believed in this years ago, and it's really working so well. So, and look at the extent of capabilities that these a 3D interactive tour can look at. But I really want you to start thinking about whether we've actually missed anything. So it's about you showing, actually, through that thought process, what we're going to discuss today, actually, well, what could it do this and why not that? At the heart of everything is the learners in the centres. Everything we do in college, that's why we're here, is about the learners. The main tool that we use it for here at Weston is the transition. Whether, like Sam said, that's through career planning choices, whether that's they've made a decision but they've got those anxieties about coming into the college, whether that's about accessibility. But actually, a prime example this week is where a parent came through to me on a call. Her son's got to make a decision for next year. He really doesn't know what he's doing, doesn't know where he wants to go, and I could instantly ask her to log in at home into the 3D tours, and I was able to talk about course choices, accessibility, libraries, through the use of the 3D tools, and it was instant, and she hadn't had to leave her home. So think outside of the box. It's naturally already at the moment marketing for us. Business growth and employers, when we've gone out to events to attract, it's just from one simple interactive tour of one area. It's an idea the business growth with employers, they're looking at that, and we're using that as our SEND knowledge. It's to show them a platform around accessibility and looking after those employees with maybe autism or their anxiety and seeing what they see. Some of the maintenance areas, the careers and employability, one of the areas we look to focus on in the future is very much maybe being able to scan employment areas to show students a much more real environment for their careers. Anyway, we'll move on. And
can I just interrupt you,
yeah.
Ros? Sorry, I know that Laura is asking a question here. So Laura, could you try to access your question? Sorry. Could you type your question, Laura, into, if you haven't already, we're struggling to see it coming up on our screen. Oh, we'll allow you to talk. Sorry, Laura. I think we should be able to hear you now. Try again. Laura, we're not able to access your, we're able to hear you, really sorry, through the computer system. We're trying to unmute and it's just not working. Do you think you could type your question so that we can come back to you?
Okay, while we're...
Oh,
yeah.
That's okay. We can clarify. Laura doesn't have a question. She has some technical difficulties.
Okay, great.
So over to you, Ros.
Right, before we move to the next slide, we talked about transition. I've given you an example of the parents and carers. One of the key things as well is once they're even in with us, what we're finding is for those learners, autistic learners in particular, that aren't accessing our restaurants or our social areas, by scanning them, we're doing a lot of work with the specialist teams or the one-to-one support, is to show them what those areas like and working with strategies to help them transition into that. And that's being a really a massive piece of work that's just working really well for our learners. And the bottom one on the corner there says inclusive and EAA. So here we go, exams access arrangements. I'm going to push the boat out here. My concept here with the college is we all know how much of a college is shut down every year. I'm to close down because of the number of rooms we have to have for separate rooms, separate invigilators, etc., etc. I've known colleges to close down a whole campus to be able to do that around exam season. But actually, when I've started to talk to learners in the past, and not necessarily just here, actually, if they were shown what that room looked like in advance while they were having their access arrangement assessment, most of them would have opted in to actually be very happy to share a room with two other learners. And these are the efficiencies that are knowingly one simple, interactive tour, one area or a classroom or whatever, actually starting to benefit the whole college and actually really benefiting the learners. So we're just going to go to the next slide. So we're going to actually look at a tour. We have many. There are 22 on Weston College's website. Please do take a look. Type in Weston College. What can we offer? It's under sites and campuses. We're going to have a look at that in a minute. I want you to keep an eye out for what you're going to see through those tours. So on the left, brilliantly, the new public-facing tour. You could always do it. We could always do it ourselves from the background. But anybody looking at your tours now can go in on the left-hand image there and measure. You can measure the width of, the size of a room, the size of a doorway. You can use toilet access. If you've got anything like that, you just click on it, it measures you. So you know if your wheelchair is going to get through, you're going to know anything you need to go through to those areas. But trust me, interesting. Now the maintenance teams are really finding that really useful, especially when they're moving and transporting their goods. Okay, so this is where I'm trying to grow the efficiency model that Sam was talking to you about. This is purely for learners, but ultimately off the back of this, there is so many uses. On the right-hand image there, hopefully you can just see there are some coloured dots, information tags, information points. So there's blues, there's purples, there's yellows. Now, each of those, when we go into it, because we're going to go into the main reception at Nightstone, you can click on those. And we'll talk about it later on, but you put videos in there, information points, photos. It could be even a drop-down application form. It could be whatever it needs to be. You can put those and embed those within the tours, and you can have green for parents, you can have yellows for learners. You can really use it as you want to use it. Okay. just going to have a tour. Liam's just going to help us with this one. Sam's going to take us down to Nightstone. I'm going to show you where it is on our website.
So Nightstone Campus is one of our main campuses. When we invested in this technology, we started it at Nightstone Campus. And then we've also moved it across to all our other 3 sites. And also we have a provision for students on the autism spectrum, a residential training facility, and there we've also got the 3D tours. So we have scanned all aspects of our college facilities, and we've created a number of classrooms that we've scanned as well. So we'll take you through the Nightstone. Hopefully you'll be able to see it, so the screen will be moving and I'll be clicking on the buttons and showing you around and showing you some of the areas of interest or information that we're providing the students. What we found for students on the autism spectrum as well is that we have students providing information to other students so that they can really see from their peers or for the people that they'll be studying alongside the impact of the college and how they've transitioned into the organisation and how they can hear about the activities and see what's happening before they actually step through the door. So it's on our main site at the beginning, and then we'd click onto our Nightstone Campus. And it should take us through to our live tours. So here we go. So here's all the different areas that we're able to click on. So if we take you through reception to start off with, the anxiety around learners, as you would all know, about coming into a new college environment, the reception area is so key for learners to establish, on that first day, who they would speak to, where they would need to go. So Ros, if you want to take over, shall I take you through?
Yeah, well, I was just thinking we could head out to the barrier side and I'll show you how it's been useful for not only that, all of these interactive elements, the information points there, you click on them, it says about the barrier one there, for instance. Sam will click on them. So I've actually been using this for a lot of professionals. Sam's, that's right. So there we go. So this is great for students, to be able to access college. You need an ID badge. So, and then back at reception as well, you're going to click on those. It tells you, who will help you. There's signs and there's more information points on where the toilets are. Think about yourself going to a brand new location, and there we go. Perfect example. So if we wanted to, and I'm not at the computer now, but you can, Sam, but you can actually measure that doorway now, which is amazing. So we didn't go in, but you can measure the size of the doorway. So it's just a prime example. Parents, I've sent it out to parents and emails who are coming in to discuss their young person. I've got a meeting, an EHCP room meeting, professionals. Actually, we forget anxieties, even transitioning learners in, it starts with those who look after them, who are funding them, who are supporting them outside of the college. So these have been so invaluable in terms, that's just, the reception alone. So that's really important.
I'll just show you some of the other information that we've got on this screen, but then I think it's important to start showing where people can access support and can see how quickly they will be able to get to an area of support whilst they come into the building. So as you can see, we go through the barriers. If I can make it get us through, sorry.
That's right.
And then straight away, it provides us information about the healthcare support. And then you could see, if you click through, can't get round the corner.
That one stopped there. That particular tour stopped there. The other ones with the library, if we went to the library, for instance, it's been great for the library. Students haven't been to the library, want to go in and hire a laptop. Actually, you can click on buttons, information points, and it tells them all of that information. It's a new way of engaging with the young people as well in terms of that, to get them in.
Do you want to just explain this part? Oh. So we've just talked about the library. So I was just showing you the different buttons that are in the library so that you could see that where the pinpoints are for the learners.
And what we like about this is the actual interactive elements are really change. Can change them really quickly. If you've got a particular promotion or an activity event going on, or you want to send that link out to students, you can, and it can be updated at the click of a button. Weston Bay, please go and have a look at Weston Bay. That's full of lots of examples in your own time of videos, information. We try, again, we're evolving that at the moment because parents wanted so much information and learners want so much information. What we're finding as well, to make a copy of these tours for, front users, for the students to use, and actually how we might be able to use them for staff training or for maintenance and health and safety. The cost to just copy it and actually have a second copy for that internal or backroom office stuff where it goes on in education that learners and particularly parents don't see. It's just really efficient. So yeah, any questions on that? We can certainly, if we've got time at the end, certainly take you in around some of the other tours while we're on this webinar. But that's to give you an idea of what systematically they look like. There's I've been using them, or we've been using them. I know I definitely have. We did a transition fair, parents, young people wanting to see where they wanted to come. Open days, we've got open day and open evenings now, as everybody will be having. They're just a standard part of us showing the facilities, showing the provision, particularly for those young people. They've got something to be looking at and they feel immersed in it. It's breaking that immediate anxiety and those barriers to moving from school into college down already, and that's been such a great response that probably we underpredicted the use of take a couple of iPads along and and have people looking around, seeing all different sites. It's proven to be really, really useful. So
we'll come back out of that tour now, the library tour. So I'm just wondering if we pause for a second and just see if there's any questions around in those tours that anybody wants to ask. So Laura has asked us a question around what equipment did we use to actually create this. So Ros will explain that to you now.
Okay, so we used a company called Ocean 3D, who come in and scan this. So it was employed by the college to come in and create these scans. The equipment is the cost of a car, a brand new car. So that's an investment. But the so basically a business.
We used an external agency to create these tours for us. It was very a seamless event when they came in, and they just went into each room. We did do it during the holidays when we were in our quiet periods, because each room, when you do need to scan each room, it's difficult if people are walking in and out of the room. So for certain points, it can only take a couple of minutes to scan the entire room, but it was obviously the setup beforehand and making sure you have the cameras in the right place, and then they would do each room. So we didn't invest in the technology to produce this ourselves, and we wanted to ensure that we had advice and guidance regarding using and creating those buttons that you can see that I was pressing on, so that we had access to the help as we were in our infancy of starting these projects. Like I said, initially we did a few of the main areas, but because of the way in which we were using it with the learners and how it was really helping that transition, it enabled us to then look at extending that. And they came back, I think it was 6 months later, they came back and scanned further areas. For example, we've expanded to create a large engineering provision here at Weston College, and we were taking lots of students who were not based within. They're working for Rolls-Royce, so they were staying as residents around the area, and their parents wanted to see where they were studying. They wanted to see the facilities that we're using. They wanted to see all the equipment in those engineering labs and workshops. So that's when we decided that we would take it further and use some of where we were developing new provision to have the technology. And then we could show it within schools. So when you're doing careers information sessions, you could show them what type of things they would be using if they wanted to progress at Weston College to engineering. So it has been not only a marketing tool, but the aid of the transition for those learners with SEND has been crucial in that. So I hope that answered your question, Laura. The next question is from Rachel regarding the software that we use. So as I said, we haven't bought anything specifically apart from paying for somebody externally to come into the organisation. So it just links to your normal software. Is that
yeah?
Right?
So you have an embed code, and that's as far as my technical knowledge ends. But basically, so if you take Weston College, for instance, the company will send an embed code that fits naturally within what you need for a website. They hold it on their server, and that's it. It's as simple as, and what's great about this is you can share it out on Facebook by the same thing. There's no delay on that. There's nothing that, or to a parent, I'm lost. Okay, you're looking for this building and this is the reception desk, or whatever that might be. So there's so many different uses. So it's very, very simple, very simple.
I think that that the time that it can take for a member of staff to work with a learner with complex needs, with high anxiety, autism, and significant mental health difficulties, to build that relationship and actually have them to come into the college, and can take a large amount of time, as you'd all be aware. But through the technology, it's really ensured that this can be much more efficient. And for some learners, this isn't a route of technology. We recognise it doesn't work for everybody. For a lot of learners, they're just using this stuff, accessing these tools at home, and it's just building their confidence and self-esteem. And then when they're in the building and change happens, they know exactly where they can go to access support. They may not have the confidence to ask a member of staff, but they can log onto the computer and they can have a look and they can find where they can go for that extra support. Do we have any other questions? We'll take that as a no. So we'll move on now to just the impact of this model. We've talked about it a lot, so we don't want to repeat ourselves too much. But I just wanted to show you this to really, we can send this presentation to you all because we know that it's about maybe taking this information to share with your corporate teams and your finance departments. So we wanted to give you the information so that you had it, so you could, you didn't have to reinvent the wheel. We could give you the information now as a toolbox to take away and to have your arguments about why you should be able to invest in this. I know that some of the questions that you would want to know is about cost.
Get on to that in a minute.
And we will move on to that in a minute. So we have talked about this. So we don't want to repeat. So if we move on to the next slide.
Okay, so funding. When I have spoken to people at Centre of Excellence, and this was mentioned at the last event, so people asking about funding. Well, Weston College, we're very lucky with very supportive leadership, and from above, and that includes Sam here as Dean of Faculty now, and but it's about thinking outside of the box. Okay, everything we do here is for learners, but this is just a perception for me. Okay, it's not necessarily, this isn't the way Weston funded it. Okay, but business growth sends, so everybody you can think that will benefit from that tour, okay, should all chip in, as far as I'm concerned, where possible, because it's going to do a lot of things for a lot of people, for lots of areas. And so I guess that's what this image here is kind of representing, is if with the struggling budgets, internal fights over those monies, we've known it for a long time, Neffy, it's not new news, but those struggles are really internal ones now. We know, you've got X amount of money and you need it to work for those learners and for yourselves. So it is about collaborative thinking and a collaborative approach, and that's basically what this slide is kind of saying, actually, is thinking outside the box and maybe getting people to think together.
And as far as Weston College is concerned, when we went for the original tours, we combined our budgets between the send and the marketing. And then from the success of that and the additional resource we were investing in to have a tour of Weston Bay, like I said, our residential training facility, that came out of the SEND POCs. That was specifically for students with SEND. But we did work closely with marketing, so we got them to see the benefits of actually using this technology as well. Laura's asked a really good question around, is it possible to include people in the tours, e.g. people explaining what their jobs are? Yes, it is. And I think that that's something that's been key, is about having videos, and so that you have that there. So where you're saying about staff explaining what their jobs are, it's also about students explaining their experiences. And for a student with autism to hear from another student with autism, that has been a really powerful message.
Absolutely. Oh, I will say though, we don't put them in the information and the actual scan itself, and that's for a lot of reasons. That is, you might have somebody who's willing to, sit at a desk today, but may leave your organisation tomorrow, and then they may not want to be in that tool. So it's very easy to show it as it is, as a blank canvas, and then you can always add into those interactive elements a video of how. When it's busier times, but that's fine because you can change that at any given time. Hopefully that makes sense. Original tool.
Okay, moving on to the next slide.
So one of the things we've yet to do with that is with these tools is you can use them with Oculus. Anybody out there who knows all about this, your sort of goggles that you put on, and you can use it visually. The next slide will give you a couple of case studies where people are using it to teach in certain environments. Because I've already mentioned it, but I didn't think I would have done at that point too much, but the exam access arrangements, the launching of virtual open days hasn't been done here, but I know there is another college out there who's trialing it actually within the HE at the moment. So they're literally launching virtual open days rather than it just being a static Wednesday night on a 28th or 27th of January or things like that. So they're just trialing, but huge amounts of different ways to sort of open up their campuses. I've already spoken to you as prime examples about supporting telephone calls with parents and carers, how they're on the end of the phone. And again, here on the left, what I will say is, referring back to what Sam said earlier about the amount of time we know it can take to transition a learner in, maybe even from 18 months prior to when they're actually arriving, and we've all been there, if not there now. It's working for you 24/7. They can access, if they've got anxiety, they can sit at home 3 o'clock in the morning and they can access these tools. It's not limited, it doesn't close down, it's not closing at 9 o'clock at night. It's just an open campus. Application forms can go on there, permission forms, and we're even looking now at how, by the use of classrooms or to take an engineering workshop, is how maybe we can put some of that curriculum on there to share with home and see how they can support things, or students can access it from actually going into the classroom. So once you've got one of those tools, you can really play around with what works, and it's great. If something hasn't worked maybe for 3 or 4 months, you can go, actually, let's review that, and maybe we'll try it and get the students involved to see how they would like it used.
So moving on now to our last slide.
Basically, this one here, Ocean 3 just provided with us, which is very kind of them. We all know we need to see it improve. Well, where's the data? Where's the impact? I think, interestingly here, these are just 2 examples. There are researchers out there, and I know the NHS are finding them beneficial for their patients, reducing anxiety, and they've got huge amounts of research, but it is out there. So what I would encourage you to do, if you ever need any sort of, fundamental evidence, I guess, is there's a huge amount of work out there at the moment in research around this and the impact on children and young people, adults, employability. So please do, we haven't gone into too many options today or offerings there, but it was just a little bit of food for thought really to get, it is out there.
And Louise has come back with asking another question for us to clarify the use around access arrangements, exam access arrangements. So can we provide some further detail about how we're using?
If you've got a learner that comes along and has access arrangements, and they have always been used to having their own room from school, but actually they indicate that they, some are asked the question about, would you've got your own room, or many students actually, on reflection, when we've gone back and analysed how many of them needed their extra time and how they felt, their room on their own benefited them. Actually, if they realised, and I quote, that there was only going to be 2 other people in that room to sit my exam, I would have been happy to sit in there, not on a room on my own. And actually that therefore has led to a conversation around, well, maybe if we create 3D tours of those those rooms that they might sit in for exams, we may be able to show them this is what it would look like with 3 people in there. We might do a video for that. Just to, again, looking at efficiencies.
I think adding to Ros's point there is that and in our college there's 3 different campuses, but a lot of the exams, especially those GCSE exams, take place at the Nightstone campus. So for many learners, they don't actually access the campus until it's their exam day. So already we're taking exams, there's heightened anxiety, heightened stress, and they may not see, with so many learners coming across to take those exams, they may not see their tutor. So it's about working with them before their exam to show them the site of where they're going to take the exam. So it's not just for those learners that have the one-to-one or their own rooms. It's about other students who might not necessarily be in receipt of support, but actually coming over to take exams is really challenging, and they're going to be around other learners. So it's showing them, okay, so when you get to the building, your room is this, on the 3rd floor, room 318. So this is the way you get there. And it just it helps students to feel more relaxed before they take their exams.
So it's always multi-layered. That's the thing. You have, it's never just for the one purpose. I think that's going to.
So I think that hopefully from the feedback, sorry, just checking we'd answer that question. So hopefully from the feedback that we've received from, like I said, all the people that have been involved in our Centre for Excellence at Communities Practice level and our Leadership Hub, that gives you a little bit of a whistle-stop tour of the technology, or one aspect of the technology. Please feel free to ask any questions now before you go, and if you've got any specific questions afterwards, then I know you've all got our Centre for Excellence email, so just please drop us an email and we'll be happy to talk to you and give you any specifics. Just before we finish, I know that you are asking about the cost. So I don't know, Ros, whether you can give an overview of, a small area, what that could be.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically, believe it or not, every room was based either on a floor plan or a visit by the company, because often floor plans aren't. And it all depends if you have 3 rooms together or whether they were single rooms, because every tour in itself, as I understand it, sits on a server independently. So that's a cost. Whereas you could do certain areas linked together. It would be more cost effective to do that. If you go downstairs, again, it's the time it can take for the knitting together of the technology. It's roughly about £6 a square metre. But, once you've got one and you want a copy tour, I think they were in and around £150 just for a copy. So it might cost you more originally. And then thereafter, after your first contract ends, it's something like, for every tour, anything between £10 and £20 a month just to keep it live, active. But we get all of that background support. So although we've got some here that do all the interactive elements, we can phone the company all the time. He'll go, we can't do this. Oh, that's fine. You just add that. So that's why that's why it's worked really well, is because there's the phone's always answered in terms of keeping it live and keeping it fresh, or new idea around. So it's all that is within that original cost. Is that helpful?
Yeah, thank you, Ros. So if you've got any more questions, then please stay on and ask the questions. But we've hoped we've been able to share some practice this afternoon. And just to let you know, in 2 weeks' time, we have our next webinar, that's really focusing on our motivational career structure and how we're looking to develop with partners across the sector an apprenticeship, a higher level apprenticeship in SEND. Just to let you know, there are lots of different companies out there who are doing 3D tours, but if you are to book with Ocean 3D, then as part of the Centre for Excellence, as you're part of this project, if you do book a tour by the time the project finishes, which is March 2020, at the end of March, then they will give a 5% discount. So I know that's a quick turnaround for your corporate team, and but at least if you could make contact and book that in, the tour would obviously be scanned after that date, but we just thought that might help with budgets. So thank you ever so much. We'll stay on for a bit in case there's any more specific questions tailored to any of your organisations. But thank you for logging in this afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.
Hi, Michelle. I understand you've got a question. I'm hoping we might be able to hear you. Is your phone muted? But are your...
No, can you hear me?
Oh, we can hear you. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, sorry, it was just I couldn't hear you. I wondered if there was a technical fault, but obviously it appears to be back on now. I do apologise.
Oh, no worries.
Thank you.
Did you have a question for us?
No, it was just that I couldn't hear you.
Oh, okay. All right. Thanks, Michelle.
Sorry, okay.
Did you not hear us all the way through?
I missed the last 5 or 10 minutes.
Okay, I'm wondering if anybody else... yeah. Okay. Was there anything... Do you want us to go back through some of the information, or do you want to arrange a telephone conversation, or did you gather what we were saying?
Yeah, I did. And it looked, I think just going on the website maybe and having a look at some of the videos that you've got on there and how they've been put together may give me probably a better insight. But thank you very much. And if I've got any questions, is it okay to just send them through on an email?
Of course it is. No problem. Yeah, no problem.
Perfect. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Thanks, Michelle. Bye. Louise Ball, it seems to be you're the only person that's left on. We haven't had a question from you again, so we're presuming now that we're going to close the webinar. But as I said, please get in touch if you want any more information. Thank you.